You're reading that right. It says right here, U.S. Department of Defense officially designates League of Legends and Path of Exile parent company, Tencent, as one of many Chinese military companies operating within the country. All right. I wanted to say opinating, but that's not a word. That's Oppenheimer in a verb. And I'm not sure that's a, yeah, I don't think that's a word. Anyway, Spencer Bercouli, the editor in chief of Bounding into Comics, brings this to our attention today. So let's take a look at it. Now, the first thing you should know about this is that this is a sort of it's built out of a Trump executive order. Okay, so this has the intent of securing America over, annoying the Chinese into causing a conflict with us, which has been the some prevailing attempts from the current leadership of the country, not the one that's coming in. I want to make that clear. So January 20th, our provocateuring is probably going to stop, but more of this is going to happen. And so this is what it kind of stipulates is that um, the Department of Defense has decided that due to Tencent's relationship to the CCP, they are not allowed to purchase or interact or facilitate the actions of Tencent within the US. Now, they're allowed to sell in the US, they're allowed to buy, they're allowed to walk around and be free. However, this listing effectively black marks them. So going forward, to be completely clear here, I'm just trying to get down here. So what this is that prior to 1961, there really wasn't a sort of uh, backstop for this as far as like a lot of protections, at least in order. There's a lot of like hype about protecting us from the Soviet influence, but there hasn't been a lot of update to it since then. And so what this served as was an update to it. And so what this clarifies though is what I want to get to. Just to be sure we understand what we're doing here, okay? Because again, this is pretty big, but it's not like gonna boot Tencent out of the Western Hemisphere, all right? It's gonna make them sweat. So this is what it says. The term Chinese military company does not include natural persons, clarified Congress within the Act's text, and natural persons and means an entity that is directly or indirectly owned, controlled, or beneficially owned by, or in an official or unofficial capacity acting as an agent of or on behalf of the People's Liberation Army of China. Okay? So the PLA is what they call their army because everybody's got to be special. Everybody's got to have their, like the Revolutionary Guard and these guys, just everybody's got to have their special military. You're real special, fellas. Anyway, the PLA, the PLA, woo, spooky. But anyway, the PLA, if you don't know, the CCP basically demands, and I'm saying basically because it has a lot of tendrils to it, but to summarize, to put it in a nutshell, the CCP demands that every domestic born company or company that wishes to do business within China have um, a regulator or some type of state sponsored official, if not directly a state official, being appointed within the board of directors of the company, effectively inserting the government right into the day to day operations of the company. That is how the law works there. And so Tencent is not immune to this. And in fact, Tencent has military assets in China. All right. They do develop things like every other tech company. They do develop things for the CCP. And this is a threat to us. This is a threat to us as we continue to analyze how China is simply copy and pasting our technology and claiming it to be theirs. Need I point out that jet fighter they were so excited to talk about a week ago that really behaved more like a kite? Hmm? And all it was based off of the NGAD from the 90s, a plane type that we're kind of sort of not moving forward with, but kind of still. So the Chinese just moved in and decided, the CCP rather, not the Chinese people. The CCP rather moved in and decided, well, we'll strap 3 ramjets to the back of it and that'll work. That'll scare them enough. And they just glided it around like a kite in the air and people went, ooh, oh, futuristic. And that's the problem that we're dealing with here is we're dealing with a copy paste maneuver. And that's where the threat of Tencent arrives is that they are, extracting data I don't mean to say it weird like that. They are extracting data from Americans flatly, and every other person using their apps on their phones and on their computers. This is made very clear in their terms of service that the information you are surrendering here is subject to their whim. They don't say that they're going to sell this stuff, but they also don't say that they won't, very much like how Facebook had it originally, very much how most businesses that deal with this stuff and intend to sell your information, stipulate. And so Tencent is offering this information most likely to other places that want to sell to you, just as we've heard before. Remember Bernie Sanders was talking about this? Good old Bernie. You remember him and his wife dumping all that nuclear waste up in Vermont? Yeah, but he did bring up that big tech is very interested in selling your big information. And so here's Tencent to capture that information, yet again, make more money off of Americans without our knowing. And so that's what this is probably targeted towards. I don't think that the military work that Tencent does for China is up for grabs here. I don't think that that's the problem. Because again, almost every tech company like Samsung does this. So they would be a threat from Korea. Sony does this. There'd be a threat from China, from golly, whoops, from Japan. Please excuse that slip of the tongue there. That was not intended. I apologize. Those are very separate countries, and I'm well aware of that. But this is what we have here: is that they're basically stipulating in this paragraph what is considered to be a military company and what is just a group of people owning a business. All right, and so if you are Chinese immigrants, for instance, and you're here and you want to start a tech business that traffics in that information, the US government, DoD, most likely will not define you as a Chinese military company because you are not a domestic company from China. You are here in the US, presumably operating with the intent of helping your fellow American. Otherwise, why did you come here? But anyway, the situation is that the government's moving forward with this, and Tencent does not like it. All right, now I'm just gonna. This is a lot of stuff where Spencer was like clarifying what was going on with like the actual internal, ups and downs with the, you know, uh, how the law works, how it's been practiced, how it came to be, how it's being enacted now as it comes into being ratified by Congress and signed into law and that sort of thing. Because believe it or not, there was a bipartisan push for this. So a lot of people are sort of remarking on just how with it China is all of a sudden and how it looks oddly like our efforts, but not exact, you see. Remember, they kind of copy your homework. Yeah, but please change it so that way nobody sees that you copied it, right? Yeah. And so this is what Tencent had to say, and they're very upset about this. So they say their inclusion on the list is a mistake. They don't feel that they are a Chinese military company, despite doing that for the CCP sometimes. And they say that we are not a military company or supplier, unlike sanctions or export controls. This listing has no impact on our business. We will nonetheless work with the Department of Defense to address any misunderstanding. Again, there really hasn't been a misunderstanding. So long as they're capturing data and reporting it back to their databases in China, that's a problem. Okay. It doesn't matter who they capture that information from. That's not legal. You're not supposed to be able to do that on any front, really. That's why Mark Zuckerberg was brought before Congress, if you recall. So, in conclusion, what really needs to be expressed about this is it's not going to change how Tencent does business. It's not going to affect their ability to do business in the United States. What it will, however, snuff out is any attempt to go around our government anymore. The government will now be pointed in a way, like the Department of Defense at least, will be pointed in a direction in which they need to be paying attention to Tencent. Thus, any attempt by Tencent to get around regulations or perhaps force more data extraction into their programs will be met with, pushback and perhaps actual action, real um, pushback, real legal consequences now, because this is what's considered a shot across the bow when you're dealing with a foreign entity that may or may not be above board with their intentions. This is a shot across the bow that says, hey, we see that you're doing some sideways stuff. It's not exactly a threat to national security, but it's this close. So we're telling you now, back off, play nice, and you can keep making your money. You can keep doing your cute little games. But if that gets any closer, mister, we're done. You're going home. And I'm for it. Tencent has constantly leveraged the accessibility of the American economy as a tool to aid the CCP in exporting their foreign policy. It's soft power. Look it up. And I want an end of it. I don't even want us pushing back and exporting our culture into their sphere. It would be nice if we just focused on what's inside of our borders for a little while. Maybe just a week. Wouldn't it be nice if we were just like, screw the rest of the world for a week? Let's focus on America, right? I'm not saying shut down all the trade routes and all that stuff like that, but maybe rather than like, oh, what's China up to today? I wonder what Japan's up to. Oh, those Russians. Ugh. Maybe we turn around and be like, oh, hey, what's going on in Boston? You know, maybe we turn around and see what's going on in our own backyard, right? Wouldn't it be nice to focus on that stuff? And this is part of that effort. This is part of that effort to say, no more of you coming in and abusing our economy and our willingness to accept of your kooky foreign ways and how you want to do business. It's not going to happen anymore. You got to play by our rules if you're going to do business in this country. You've been warned. I like it. I want to see more of it. I want to see more companies treated this way and reminded that if you're going to do business here, you need to respect the consumers here. The whole reason why Tencent is the juggernaut that it is isn't because China is a huge market. It's because the American dollar is so powerful. I'll make that abundantly clear, right? The gigantic nature of the Chinese market will not ever outweigh the value of the American currency in any shape or form that it takes. And this is because the CCP artificially deflates that currency. I'm not lying. You can Google it. So that's what we're facing. They're not going to run away. They're not going to say, oh, we don't like you pointing your fingers at us. We're going to leave. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. You and I both know they're not going to do that. They want that money. That money spends better than any other money on earth. And they want that money. They need it for bricks. How are you going to pay for bricks without the dollar, huh? That's the neat little cycle they don't want to tell you about. How do you build bricks without the dollar? Well, you don't. You don't. And that's why Tencent's not going anywhere. They're going to tuck their tail between their legs. The DOD is going to tell them that they need to stop harvesting data. At the very least, it needs to stop leaving American shores. Okay? Maybe one of these new fancy data centers that President-elect Trump announced, huh? Maybe these one of these data centers will hold all of that Tencent information that was previously on its way back to the Sino part of the world. So that's what I want to throw into your lap today, the hot potato into your lap today. Consider that this isn't a bad thing. Moreover, it's answering what Mark Zuckerberg brought up in a video that he made today about how other countries are using censorship to make sure that American corporations can't exist in that sphere while obeying our free speech laws. Okay? So maybe this is a bit of payback for Tencent saying, hey, by the way, this goes both ways. If you don't want to protect our consumers, you can go somewhere else. There's plenty of other places on earth you can try making money, but the dollar doesn't spend as well as it does in America. So anyway, that's just what I want to tell you, okay? So out there in the world, however you feel about this, I think it's a good thing. You'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments below. But as always, good luck out there.